Quick update before we start the video. I just want to say thank you for all the love you guys gave me for the last video I made, the Velma one. 10K views in the week and over 100 subs. Crazy, man. Thank you guys so much. I'll talk more about it later in the video. But, you know, we're hearing about Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. That's what we're talking about today. So, let's get it started. Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. is a show most of us have either thoroughly watched or seen it in our childhood here and there. The show had 2 seasons and came out in 2010, so it's not like I remember it thoroughly like that. Chill with me, I was like 11. So because it was heavily requested by a lot of you guys in the comments, I decided to watch some episodes and have a fresh thought on the actual show. And in the space of 3 days, I watched 18 episodes. Okay, I know that's not healthy, relax, but you know, it's for educational purposes. But what I can't say is that the show is better than Velma, which is not really a hard thing to do. I felt like it wasn't fair for me to compare Velma to Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. just because Velma only had 2 episodes that I watched. I know there's 6 episodes now, so I did decide to watch a little bit more of Velma. And I just couldn't. It's like getting worse every episode. I couldn't do it. But honestly, Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. is by far one of the best iterations of the Scooby Doo IP, probably since the original Scooby Doo that came out in the 1960s. But what makes it so special, and where does it stand compared to Velma? Let's find out. So, we must understand that Velma and Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. are aimed at 2 different audiences, but I am a firm believer that a lot of these kids shows are better written than the adult shows, so, you know, it's my excuse to watch some of these kids shows. But, you know, that's a whole different video. I'll definitely talk about that in the future, but right now we're just talking about Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. and Velma. The characters in Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. are just superior to the show. It's honestly not that hard to grasp why, but if you really need an incline for reasoning, it's really just because they stay true to the character themselves, to the original IP that was provided by Hanna-Barbera, and expanded them in a way you would expect them to be expanded, you know? So the first character we're going to talk about is Fred Jones. Fred is very much the typical Fred in every Scooby Doo show, you know? Not much has changed in him in this variation of the show. But, you know, he has a very high fascination or even addiction to setting up traps. But Fred is very oblivious to almost like everything around him, and he's just an all-around real nice, wholesome guy to be around with. You know, just a very pure person, very likable, very different from, you know, the idiotic douchebag we got from Velma. That should have never happened. That should have never happened. Then we have Daphne, who's kind of like Norval, has a huge crush on Fred. She basically flirts with him every episode and gets mad or upset or even disappointed at him at times for sometimes not really reciprocating that same energy towards her, which is understandable because they're kids. They're really not as complex mentally as adults would be, so we understand why they act this way. This Daphne is probably the best work I've seen on Daphne iteration on the Scooby Doo series, probably ever. She's just a very well-rounded, balanced character that has more emotion and more effort put into her. You know, it might be something that I only may have picked up, and people might not see it as that big of a deal, but this is probably the best one, the best Daphne in every Scooby Doo show I've seen. It makes her one of my favorite characters in the show. Then we have Velma, who's somehow kind of similar to the Mindy Kaling one, but in a good way. In this version, she's kind of mean, but you know, for the right reasons. Kind of like Velma from the Velma show. Velma from this show is Velma. Okay, wait, let me restart that. Kind of like Kaling Velma, Mystery Inc. Velma is very much snarky and rude at times, but can be seen as a character that is unlikable. But at the same time, she isn't, because she has shown countless times in the show that the reason she acts this way is because she's just smarter than everybody else. She's like the voice of reason for Mystery Inc. as a team, whereas Mindy Kaling's version of Velma thinks she's smart, but in reality she really isn't. Her and Shaggy also have a thing going on, and it can get rocky, which brings me to my next point, Shaggy. So our last topic of characters will be Shaggy and Scooby. You know, they kind of go hand in hand with one another, so I really feel like they should be talked about in the same sense. You know, they stay as traditional as they can be. You know, they're both goofballs in the show who love eating, and like in most Scooby Doo shows, they're the comedy relief of the show. More so Scooby, less Shaggy. The reason for that is, like I stated previously, Shaggy and Velma have a thing going on, and it's hard for Shaggy to express his feelings for her because he's scared to tell Scooby about it. And it hurts Velma because, you know, she really likes him. She's a girl, she's a teenager, she really likes Shaggy, and, you know, it's not good that, you know, they want to be public about it, but at the same time, Shaggy's scared. As the show goes on, Velma also asks Shaggy to change his ways, like the pants he wears, you know, the kind of food he eats, and sometimes his behavior. And I feel like that inclines Shaggy to express less affection towards Velma, and you can see the relationship starting to slow down as the show goes on. Shaggy is still the goofball that we all know in this show, but I think him and Fred offer the same amount of comedy relief, not as much as you would expect in Shaggy from other shows, other Scooby Doo shows. None of which compares to Scooby, who's always there for comedy relief. That's his role. You know, he's a talking dog. He's supposed to be funny. And, you know, he does it really well. And, you know, I think this little complication between the three of them is a very interesting concept to have in the show, because Daphne and Fred have their thing going on, while Scooby, Velma, and Shaggy have something else going on. And a quick fun fact, this is the first time in Scooby Doo TV where we've had Scooby actually say full and complete sentences, and this is actually the first time also we've had them say Shaggy with the SH. Don't worry, he still says Raggy, but, you know, he has said Shaggy with the SH before here too, so. And even the recurring characters in the show are pretty funny. You know, when I was watching Velma before, I was like, wow, some of these characters suck. That's why I didn't talk about them in the last video, like Velma's dad and, you know, Fred's friends, and the rest of the other characters are just so bland and really offer nothing to the show. Whereas in here, they don't. You know, we have a lot of good characters that aren't traditional Scooby Doo characters that are in the show, like the sheriff, who is voiced by my favorite voice actor, Patrick Warburton. The fact that this man only does one voice, but it's always iconic. You can smell the screams and crying that he does from a mile away.
All right, let's wassail. Yeah! 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 All right! Yeah! Yes! No! Yes! Rock and roll! Rock and roll! Yeah! Joseph! Joseph! Hello, fight! Yeah!
Hallelujah!
Get some! Get some! Get some! God! Oh my God! Oh, my legs!
As a character, the sheriff is pretty useless. You know, doesn't really do much in the show. He's just really there for comedy relief, just like Scooby and Shaggy and Fred. But, you know, he's funny, and, you know, he's like a very good filler character to have. Same with Fred's dad, who's like the mayor of Crystal Cove, which is the town that, you know, the gang lives in. Him and Fred are pretty similar, which is something that I've really noticed, and it's very good writing because, you know, sometimes the parents aren't similar to their children. They're complete opposites, but him and Fred are very similar. You might not realize Fred's dad is also very oblivious to, like, a lot of what Fred does, and if it doesn't give him any sort of positive incline, that he just doesn't care about it. But he's also a pretty funny character too, and, you know, the fact that he sees all the monsters that come up in, you know, Crystal Cove as attractions rather than things to solve is always very funny to me. The characters in the show are not unlikable, so it makes it so much easier to watch, and the recurring characters actually have a purpose. And it's not like their characters don't suffer conflict within each other. There were scenes where the mystery gang struggled to express their feelings toward each other, and it got so bad to the point that they weren't even talking to each other, they weren't even looking at each other. Sometimes they'll just do things on their own because they just don't feel like it's the right thing to do. And it's infuriating for both the other characters and the viewers in a good way. You know, these are conflicts that actually happen. And, you know, how would these characters react is a very interesting thing to see. Even the monsters in the show have reasons to actually do evil deeds. Whether it's like the lack of income they get or being bullied in their childhood, the reasoning is always there for them to do what they have to do. It can get repetitive sometimes, but it's how the show operates. They all have good reasons to be evil. Mr. E is also the recurring antagonist of the show. He's like the main bad guy, or more so the main mystery of the show, because we don't really know if it's good or bad. The character that keeps on giving, the character that is the reason why the show keeps on going on. He really has answers on how the original Mystery Inc. group disappeared, and it's up to the gang to find out, which is interesting for the viewer because, you know, although each episode ends with them solving the mystery of the day, there's still an ongoing mystery going on, the prolonged mystery that's gonna have to be solved throughout the season. So it keeps the viewer inclined, it keeps the viewer interested in the show. So, you know, it doesn't get repetitive and boring. Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. is probably the best iteration of a Scooby Doo IP ever. The characters actually have actual conflicts within themselves to solve. It's not always in a positive light. There was even a time where they weren't even talking to each other. Whereas Velma, the Mindy Kaling version, the conflicts don't really seem as important. But you know, what can I say? You know, the show Mystery Inc. has very good wholesome moments with each other. And it's just overall a very nice show to watch. It just makes you feel happy. It's a great watch. It didn't need 95,000 penis jokes for it to be funny. It didn't have to have racist or Family Guy type of humor for it to force a laugh out of me, you know. That's what a lot of adult shows, including Velma, fail to do. If they fail to actually be creative and actually write good jokes, which resorts them to forcing themselves into writing, you know, another sex joke or another joke that references something outside of, like, you know, the universe. But yes, if you have not watched Scooby Doo Mystery Inc., please give it a watch. It's up there when it comes to top Scooby Doo shows ever. It's up there with the live action movies, and for sure, it's better than the 1960s version of Scooby Doo. I don't want to hear argue with your mother. Don't worry what I gotta think. I think that it's better, and you know, after you watch at least the first couple episodes, you'd think so too. I think it's way better than What's New Scooby Doo, and that's one of my favorite childhood shows as well. It's definitely better than Velma. So, you know, who else is it really competing with? So watch it. It's on HBO. You know, you watch Velma on HBO, watch something that's good at least. Don't hate watch something because you're not going to like it. Once again, thank you guys for watching the video. And thank you so much for the love you guys gave me for the Velma video. It really shocked me. 10K views in a week. That's crazy to me. That's actually wild. I was shocked to get that, you know, within a week. I was seeing how it was going every day. I was so happy. And, you know, once again, thank you for the 100 subscribers. Thank you guys for watching the video and subscribing. You know, I definitely want to do more content like this, you know, reviewing shows, and not just reviewing shows. If you're into like gaming and stuff, I'll definitely be playing games here. You know, I'll be reviewing things, talking about real life stuff. This is gonna be a channel where I do a lot of things. But yeah, shout out y'all. Thank you guys for subscribing. 100 subscribers is a lot. But you know, it might not sound like a lot to you, but for me, that's like a whole lecture hall. So that's crazy to me. Thank you guys once again. If you're new to the channel, please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't. Let me know what you think of Scooby Doo Mystery Inc. if you've watched it before. And let me know your thoughts on the show. Do you think it's the best Scooby Doo ever? Let me know in the comments down below. I think it's up there for sure. And yeah, thanks for watching. This was That Guy Bry, and I'll see y'all in a bit.